Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a warm-up story from our OP who's in the Army. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't walk on my rocks. This story takes place one morning more than halfway through my Army basic training at Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. 50-plus years later, some of the details are fuzzy or lost, but none of that really matters to the retelling of this tale. At the time of this malicious compliance, I'd taken something to the company office for a drill sergeant and was returning to the training area. There wasn't any grass in our company area, it was just too dry for grass. Instead, we had rocks about the size of quarters and half dollars where you normally would expect grass. And the DIs had a rule, keep off my rocks. But this particular day, I didn't. I could have stayed on the concrete sidewalks, but I cut across the rocks a distance of perhaps 30 feet rather than the 120 feet or so on the sidewalk, and it almost worked out just fine. Almost. About 10 feet before I was back on concrete, out rang, "Hold on right there, trainee." It was my company's top first sergeant. After a brief discussion of my error, he told me, "Never walk on my rocks. Now drop and give me 20 push-ups." So I did, and he walked into the building as I counted each one. I'd become pretty familiar with this process over the past weeks. Let's just say I had plenty of practice. When you finished the assigned push-ups, you didn't just pop back to your feet. You called out, "Permission to rise, drill sergeant," and waited for said permission. I thought about just getting up and going about my business. I knew he expected me to do just that because he went inside. But at this moment, I realized it might be interesting to wait for a while in the front-leaning rest position, push-up position, right out in front of the company office. This began my malicious compliance. Perhaps a couple minutes later, an officer, I think our company commander, came walking down the sidewalk from the parking lot. He paused and asked me what I was doing, so I told him. He said something like, "Okay," or "I see," and continued inside the building. About 20 seconds later, the window nearest me shot up, and TOP stuck his head out saying, "You can get up, son! You can get up!" From the way he called out, I'm pretty sure he'd been a bit embarrassed. The palms of my hands were a bit sore for a couple of days, but it was well worth it. Rocks instead of grass. Accurate description of El Paso. And our second story. Sorry, I want brand name motorized wheelchair for free. So this is a story my mom told me the last time I was up visiting her. This past year, my mom's little rural street got some new neighbors. This is a big deal, as said street only has about 20 houses and dead ends into a game reserve. All the neighbors generally know each other, so new people, woman and husband, some tweenish kids, reached out to existing neighbors, are nice, stop by mom's house to say hi and shoot the crap, that sort of thing. What you do in rural neighborhoods. Fast forward a few months, new woman starts asking favors. She's disabled, in a wheelchair, needs help with some things. Note, she can drive and has a car. This is important. My parents are retired, but my stepdad is handy and my mom's smart and thoughtful. New woman starts going beyond and just asking for help here and there. She starts asking my stepdad to make her stuff for cost or free. Complicated stuff. My stepdad makes furniture mostly. She starts asking my stepdad, who has a bad shoulder, to do a lot of grunt work for her. Lifting, moving, going a few towns over to retrieve a free trillion-pound dresser she got off Craigslist, etc. She has all the marks of a manipulative beggar. But the next part's where the choosing beggar rears its ugly head. So she wanted to get a motorized wheelchair, couldn't afford to pay herself. Note, her husband is around, and he works, and they live in a big house on a nice chunk of land, but I don't know, I suppose motorized wheelchairs are expensive. So she starts a GoFundMe to get a very particular brand and model of motorized wheelchair. Meanwhile, my mom is using her awesome connections. She used to work at a nursing home and finds a motorized wheelchair in great shape that a friend of hers is willing to part with for free. My mom's excited and stops by the house of a new woman to tell her about it. New woman blinks like a sleepy cow at my mom and responds, "Wow, that's so nice of you, but I really don't want that model. I want this model, this brand." My mom tries to understand. Is there something about new woman's particular model that she needs? Something other motorized wheelchairs can't do? Nope, not really. It does 90% of what brand model does, but brand model is the Mercedes-Benz of motorized wheelchairs. So new woman wants people to donate their hard-earned money to her for that, instead of taking a perfectly good motorized wheelchair for free. New woman remains a thorn in my parents' side. My mom wants to go NC with her because of the free dresser incident. New woman had found a trillion-pound dresser on Craigslist for free, but it was pickup only, and a few towns away, like 40-minute drive each way. She asked if my stepdad would be willing to go get it for her, using his truck. She doesn't have a truck, though she does have a car, an able-bodied young husband, and teenage son. My mom thought this was a terrible idea and looked on Craigslist and found a free dresser that was close by to where the new woman lived that wouldn't require my stepfather and his bad shoulder to drive 2 towns over and haul this giant thing to the new woman's house. But no, new woman wants trillion-pound distant dresser. I'll pay stepdad the gas money, she told my mom. He's retired. It's not like he has anything better to do. Yeah, not a great way to ingratiate yourself to my mom, lady. Good luck being a choosing beggar with the other marks left in the neighborhood, I guess. Your mom sounds like a really wonderful person and a dream neighbor. And our last story. Your contract is almost up. You should maybe start looking for other positions. First, a little background story. Doug works for one of the larger banks here in Canada. For someone without post-secondary, he's done incredibly well for himself. He's 28 now and has been working with this bank for about 9 years. He started as a teller and worked his way all the way up to just below a branch manager, but more customer service oriented. This story starts in February 2020, right as COVID was starting to snowball here. Doug had worked in a few different branches over the years and is quite personable. When a former colleague told him about a position in the wealth department, he thought it might be good for change. It was also work from a small office downtown, which meant he didn't have to go into a branch every day and deal with customers and employees face to face. He decided to apply. With a good recommendation, he got an interview. How this position works is he essentially would be working directly for 2 big investment banker types, but there was an office manager, we'll call her Sarah, who he also reported to as well. This office manager trained him, provided support, etc. During the interview, he was told that the base salary for the new position was $10,000 per year less, but there was monthly bonuses paid out that would bring him well over the salary cap for his previous position. Once he accepted, it didn't really set well with me since he didn't get that in writing. He got along wonderfully with his investment banker bosses. They loved having someone so personable who also had so many connections in the branch. The divisions were kept pretty church and state, retail/wealth, so it saved a lot of time having Doug around since he could just message friends from retail to get information without having to go through all the typical hoops. He knew most of the systems already and got all the courses he needed very quickly. Once COVID got bad, offices were shut down. Everyone had to work from home. Since Doug was new, he kind of got shafted. He was one of the last people to get a laptop. You can't use your own. Had one monitor, regularly got stuck going into the office to mail things, and since he was new, he had a lot of questions and needed help regularly. With work from home, that meant Sarah had to put in a lot of effort to answer his questions. She was a miserable woman. She was condescending, took a long time to answer him, or would just say, "Figure it out." It was incredibly frustrating for Doug, especially considering the bonus he was receiving was a fraction of what was promised. He was making considerably less money and was doing a lot more work. After about a year, February 2021 at this point, Doug was doing very well at his position. The investment bankers regularly praised him. They even got him fancy Christmas gifts. The only downside was Sarah. She was still giving Doug a very hard time and just generally was being rude and condescending. When Doug's 1 year rolled around, Sarah had a meeting with him about some issues a client was having. At the end of the meeting, she said, "Since your contract renewal is coming up, you might want to consider keeping your options open and looking for some other positions in other departments." We both knew that was an empty threat since his actual bosses basically needed him at this point. One of them started having some pretty serious health issues, and Doug was a superstar helping him through it while maintaining his book of business. We knew this was just Sarah trying to make him feel small. Even still, Doug was pretty upset after hearing this. He'd been putting in 12-hour days for less money and was borderline being bullied by Sarah the entire time, so he decided to take her advice. He sent out one application to a different division of the bank. Got a call back the same day. Turns out the lady who runs this division for our province used to work with Doug. She was his branch manager back when he was a teller. With this bank, in order to move to other departments, they touched base with your current boss. They spoke with both of his investment banker bosses, and they were taken by total surprise. They called Doug to see why he was quitting since he was doing so well. They had no idea Sarah had promised him more money in the interview and that he took a pay cut to be there. They also had no idea Sarah had been treating him the way she had been since they didn't interact with her often. A day or two later, he had a Zoom meeting with the investment banker bosses and Sarah. They tried to counteroffer him the same salary, $17,000 more per year, and Sarah changed her tune completely, tried to backpedal on what she said about looking for other positions. Doug politely declined their offer and accepted the new position, partly because he felt he'd been taken advantage of since they were so easily able to give him almost a $20,000 pay raise, but also because he didn't feel secure in the position due to Sarah's remarks. His investment banker bosses still call him regularly 4 months later to help with clients. Some of their clients only want to speak with Doug, or they need Doug's help with systems he designed to make their lives easier. Now Doug works from home still, makes $17,000 more than he did in the wealth department, and his investment banker bosses pay him a few hundred a week for his freelance work. Oh, and the best of all, Sarah took on all of Doug's duties for months while they found his replacement. Doug's investment banker bosses told him their new assistant is someone who worked in the mail room of the office. He took 3 attempts to pass his exams and has no idea what he's doing. I'm surprised Sarah still has a job. She sounds toxic and borderline useless. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.